Hi everyone, Happy New Year! I hope you're all well. Today we're making the lightest, softest sponge cake. It's as light as air. This sponge cake is great for making birthday cakes and decorated layer cakes with cream and fresh fruit or other fillings and toppings. It's a perfect soft cake for layering. So let's get started. To start off, we will need 10 eggs. To be more precise, it's 10 egg whites and 8 yolks. So we start off with the cold eggs from the fridge and we need to separate them. Separate the yolks into one bowl and the whites into another. Using another small bowl here to separate each egg individually. This is to make sure that none of the yolk mixes in with the egg white. And this is why we use cold eggs. The cold eggs ensures that the yolk stays intact and doesn't break, and it's easier to get a clear egg white separated. So once you've separated the cold eggs, just cover these and set it aside till it comes back to room temperature. Oh, and you'll end up with 2 extra egg yolks. You can add that to your next omelet maybe. It's really important for the sponge cake that the egg whites are completely free of any impurities or any traces of the egg yolk. Next, we want to measure out 1 cup of caster sugar, fine grain caster sugar, and then we're going to add it to a processor and pulse it for around 30 seconds till you end up with a super fine grain granulated sugar. But you don't want a powder, you don't want icing sugar, you just want a very fine grain powder. Set that aside. Next, we have 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cake flour. To this, also add half a teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to sift this 3 times. Cake flour is a specialty flour that is low in protein and very finely ground. This flour produces the lightest, softest textured cakes, and so it's best to use cake flour in this recipe. But if you're in a pinch and you don't have cake flour, you can also use all-purpose flour mixed with a little bit of cornstarch. Check the description down below to know the details. So we've sifted the flour and salt together 3 times. That's to ensure a nice light and airy cake. Next, to a small bowl, add half a cup of vegetable, or here I'm using sunflower oil, together with 2 tablespoons of store-bought orange juice without any pulp. So the store-bought orange juice actually is preferred for this recipe, and I like to use the orange juice because it reduces any chance of getting an eggy smelling cake, and you get a really nice fresh scent. You also want to add 3/4 of a tablespoon of water, as well as 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Give this a stir and set this aside for later. Okay, so now our eggs are back to room temperature and we're going to be using a wire whisk. You can use your egg beaters, or here I'm just using the wire whisk attachment of my processor. So we're going to add the egg yolks at room temperature along with the finely granulated caster sugar, and then beat till it's very pale yellow in color, and it creates ribbon-like streaks when it's lifted up. Meanwhile, I have preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. Next, we're going to whisk our egg whites. Start to beat the egg whites and beat them till they become foamy, at which stage we want to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar allows egg whites to be whipped for longer without collapsing. When beating the egg whites, it's very important that you use a sterile, dry, clean bowl as well as really clean whisk attachments. So if you have any residue from the previous beating, you must clean and dry the whisk as well as the bowl thoroughly. Now first you want to beat till you reach soft peaks like this, and then just continue whisking and keep a close eye on it. Then continue to beat until you reach stiff peaks, and immediately stop when you reach the stiff peaks. You don't want to overbeat the egg whites. If egg whites are beaten past this point of stiff peaks, the matrix of the proteins will break down and the foam will collapse, and the egg whites become grainier, more watery, and flat. Now we're taking the beaten egg yolks with sugar, add that to a bowl, and we're also going to add in the oil and juice mixture. Give it a stir and add it in here, and we're just going to stir this till it's well incorporated. To this, we're going to add in the sifted flour a little bit at a time. Use a spatula to fold it in till the flour is incorporated into this batter and you don't see any more of the dry flour. I'm sorry, I lost a couple of clips there. Lastly, add the whipped egg white and fold into this flour batter. This should be done with a spatula, folding in the egg white quickly without overmixing. That's really important. Also make sure there's no thick yolk mixture at the bottom of the bowl. Fold in gently but quickly in a couple of additions till all the egg white is used. A little bit of white lines or streaks here and there is okay, but no thick streaks of the yolk. Whatever you do, don't over mix this once the egg white is added, because you don't want to lose that volume of the egg white that we worked so hard at achieving. Now we're going to pour this into 2 ungreased aluminum bake pans, 8 or 9 inch. And this is for 4 layers of cake, so each cake will be sliced into 2 later. Pat on your countertop, just pick it up and drop the pans a couple of times to remove any air bubbles. That's important. If you see more air bubbles, you can use a pick to sort of go through the batter gently a few times. Oh, and these baking pans have loose detachable bottoms, which is easier to release the cake later. And then bake in the preheated oven, sort of on the lower rack, not too close to the upper heat source, for 30 to 35 minutes until the center is set. Remove from the oven and invert onto elevated wire racks. This will prevent the cake from sinking and cool off from the bottom side of the cake. Using the kitchen colanders helps to elevate the cakes for this purpose. Once the cakes have cooled off completely, we can gently release the cake from the aluminum pan using a sharp knife. The loose bottom pan helps to release the cake easily. You can see these are truly the softest, lightest sponge cakes ever. So these cakes are going to be sliced into 2 so that we can make layer cakes. And you can decorate whatever way you like. I love to decorate these with any flavored whipped cream and fillings of your choice. I will be sharing a blueberry cake very soon. You can see how light and moist looking this cake is. So soft. It's great for any celebration cakes or birthday cakes. The blueberry cake recipe will be uploaded very shortly, and you can also take a look at my older cake for the lightest sponge, fruit and whipped cream cake. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial video recipe. It really is a great recipe for you to try out if you love baking. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.